people are just joining us, we sort of were a few steps in. List your school if you're in the city state. If you're a school within a school, a standalone, or a natural feeder, where the lower grade students automatically go up into your school. The knows and need to knows are anything about student recruitment that because this one focuses a lot on students, how we have to get out, advertise our school, and get students to our school. Because you'll see we have a lot of comprehensive schools in our district, and so we're an innovative model, and we've got to get those kids up there. So that's a good, yay. So if you will get that, and I'll go back to that knows and need to knows slide so you can see some of the things.
And I'm liking the knows and need to knows that I'm seeing, and we will definitely, not that we're by any means the experts on helping you get from here to the need to knows, but I think what NTAC always says, the answer's in the room, and I think we certainly hope that you can learn from us, but we would like to learn from you as well, because just to make sure that we are getting that word out about NTAC schools to the correct audience. I think that's really what we're looking at. And as we are finishing up there, really it brings us to our driving question, which is really the title of the session, is what's the connection between recruitment and school culture? So a recruitment that can empower the school culture. And so it almost becomes a cycle, as you can see up here, that the question is what connection is there between recruitment, student population, and culture? And then how does the NTI staff depend on that in order to recruit students? And then with the correct, I don't want to say the correct students, but with the students then that choose to come to our school, then how do we develop the culture and strengthen that culture to then entice more students to come to the school, which can strengthen the culture? It's just, we hope, a cycle that builds momentum and goes in the right direction. So that's really the question that we're looking at. Because on the one hand, it almost feels like in education, we don't necessarily feel like we need to sell or market a school, but that's essentially what we're doing. I mean, I don't have a marketing degree, but that's essentially what we're doing. But it goes a little deeper than just a nice marketing plan or some good strategies. It speaks to the culture that says when they get in the school, what are they going to find when they get in the school? And if they like it, they may be more likely to continue. If they don't like it, they can vote with their feet and go elsewhere. And so that, I think, kind of keeps us honest, so to speak. Not that we wouldn't be true to project-based learning, trust, respect, and responsibility. But if we're not, our students are going to let us know about it. And then if we don't address it, they're going to leave us. And so I think it gives us a sense of urgency to say, there's a strong connection between how we get students to come to NTAC and then the culture they experience when they're there, and it's hopefully it gets in a positive cycle that way.
Right, and this is actually one of our students. Toyota manufacturing plant is located in Princeton, Indiana, just 12 hours north of us maybe. And they make the Sienna, Highlander, Sequoia. Like those three vehicles, Toyota vehicles, are made in Princeton, Indiana. And we actually took our students to the Toyota plant for a tour, and this was this is in the visitor center, and just a one-of-a-kind experience that I don't know if a comprehensive school would have given them. So
it's our driving question.
Yeah. Okay.
Bad humor there. Okay,
yeah.
And again, my name's Chris Gibson. I've been director. This will be my second year at NTAC Institute. We are the Thunderbolts. We were founded in 2010 with 100 students and graduated 66 students about 6 weeks ago. And so in that respect, doing the math there, we started with over 100 and only 66 are there now. So I think that speaks to not everyone who started at the school obviously graduated. And there were even some who, I think we lost more than 34 because then we've had a few students come in along the way. Of those 66 graduates, and here's where I'm shifting a little bit into the marketing kind of putting the marketing hat on, of those 66 graduates, we're projecting at least a 95% graduation rate with $1.2 million earned or offered in scholarships. And so it sounds like it's bragging a little bit, and probably it is, but it's also one of those pieces of information, it's data that we try to get out to the community and to other schools to say, you know, it helps us kind of have a placement within the community, that it gives us an identity, that we're not an alternative school, or we're not this, or we're not this, but you know, it gives us identity when there are so many options that I'll talk about here shortly. And this past year, we had 82 ninth graders, which is about our capacity. We have about 275 students for next year. I don't really foresee us getting much bigger than that. And so, but 82 ninth graders, and then 70 incoming ninth graders, we'll greet them in about 6 weeks here. Actually more like a month.
Do you have to say that?
Yeah.
Like, just please rephrase, like,
less
we will
than a
see
month.
them soon. How about that?
Soon. And then we have a wait list as well. So, you know, we hope that what we're doing as far as recruitment or outreach is working as well. And so our projected enrollment is 275, which we had 255 at our greatest last school year. So it'll be an increase of about 20 students. And, you know, we've had, like for instance, our current junior class, we have the capacity for 75 to 80, and we have 51. And so, you know, recruitment hasn't always been what it should be, you know, because we had some more and they've decided to leave. And so, you know, but the trend is looking positive because we do have capacity in the first 2 grades.
Right. And I told you, I'm Krista Richter. I teach right now Innovative Perspectives, which is an English 9 and U.S. History 9 combined team talk class. Next year, I get to, and I'm just thrilled with this because I never thought as a secondary teacher I would get to say loop. I'm going to move up with our current 10th graders and really focus on some of the obviously the STEM, because you're going to learn that we are STEM based, but I'm pushing my boss over here to get that A in there for the STEAM and get some more things in there. And we do have some things that are going to fall into place for us, but also to move up with those 10th graders, because in Indiana, we are back to the state standards. We went state standards, Common Core, we are at the state standards as of today, and but that could change all tomorrow. And so getting those students ready for that 10th grade ECA in English, because they take the 9th grade and some tests in 8th grade. So we still have that. You know, obviously we are still tied, you know, very tightly to our state and our, you know, district supervision, but we there are some things that are unique about us that you're going to find. But you're also going to see what we are up against, and I think it's going to be some things that you all can very well relate to. So.
And I wonder if possibly this mirrors some of the communities that you come from. But just to give you an idea of Evansville, population 130,000 people, we have one corporation or district. So we have one school district with 22,000 students. So then within that, we have, and this is not to overwhelm you with just what Evansville's about, but to give you an idea of where we are in the mix of this, we have 5 comprehensive high schools, 2 alternative schools that are grades 6 through 12, and then we have a whole host of innovative models. Of course, I put NTI first.
Yeah,
but we also have.
You need to alphabetize these. No, NTI does first.
We have the Shepherd Law Academy. We have a former Chief Justice who was from Evansville, Indiana Supreme Court, and so he started a law academy at one of our high schools. We have a medical professions academy, an international baccalaureate, early college, and so our students have an enormous amount of options coming out of 8th grade. And in my former position, before I became director here at NTI, I was a school counselor at one of the high schools in Evansville and coordinated the medical professions academy. So again, I can speak from that angle too, that it's all about recruitment and getting a hold of those 8th graders as they're thinking about high school, which is, you know, not in March or April, but is in October, and just trying to see, you know, to entice them and basically to sell them on, hey, we think NTI would be a good fit. In addition, we have 2 Catholic high schools with feeder systems. We also have a charter high school, and we have a private K-12 school. And so an 8th grader coming out into 9th grade can have any one of a number of options. And so this is kind of, I don't want to say it's what we're up against, but it's our reality of, among all of these options, we somehow have to, be present there so that an 8th grader knows that we're there. But not only does the 8th grader know, but their parents need to know as well, because we can't, just rely on an 8th grader to go home to, the folks at home and say, hey, I heard about this great new school. We've got to get the message out to the parents as well. And so to speak to that, again, just a little background for us. We have 6 middle schools, 4 K-8 schools, as well as a junior high. So we have 11 schools that feed into those 5 comprehensive high schools, and then parochial and private schools. So that conversation about options for next year starts in October. And even when we were getting ready for the presentation, putting the final touches on it on Tuesday, I got an email from a parent whose daughter is going into the 8th grade this fall. So that kind of shows how far out some parents are looking. She's interested in NTAC for her daughter in 2015-16. And so, and that's a good sign, because that says our word is out there. But she also had a lot of misconceptions and was asking, I hear you're on alternative school, I hear there's no honors classes, things like that. So that was a good chance to clear up some of those things. But we are titled as an innovative model. And so, we don't use the word alternative, we don't use the word comprehensive, we're an innovative model. And I think the word innovative helps us. It's something that our district has, it titles everything, the medical academy, the law academy, those are all innovative school models. And I think that helps us. And so as we're getting the word out to middle schoolers, we are working in those 11 schools, we have to work with 11 different principals. And so if I put myself in the shoes of that middle school principal, I'm having to have somebody from NTAC and somebody from the medical academy and somebody from early college come in and disrupt the day to talk about all these innovative models. And so we have a varying degree of access to 8th graders. And Krista can speak to that just a little bit about what the recruitment team does, what it is, and some of the different situations you've been able to encounter.
Right. The recruitment team, this is Mr. Gibson and I's first year at NTAC, but we knew how the recruitment team had done things before. And so looking at the models and looking at what we wanted to do, we really thought about, how can we best do this when we get in front of the students? How can we best to acclimate that time frame that we have in here? So what we did was Mr. Gibson makes sort of the final, I guess you make the initial contact, I would like to say, to the principal to set up. We have 3 teachers that do the recruitment team, just because that's how our staff. How many teachers are we at? How many teachers are we at NTAC?
15. We're 15. Staff of 15.
Staff of 15, and it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, 3. We would like more, but yes, But anyway, 3 teachers on recruitment. We alternate, 2 teachers go at a time, and it depends on the school that we are going to. And we will take anywhere from 2 to 4 students who were successful at that school. And you'll see some pictures of our students at their time, going there, because we want to bring along a different type of, we want students of all types, but we also want students that were successful at that feeder system. Because it has not happened yet where we walk out of there and a teacher has not come and said, I can't believe so-and-so just spoke in front of 450 students. he never would have done that last year because we are so immersed by October into the PBL that they know what's expected of them. But that's also different is we may get, in this case right here, this is North Junior High School, our 7th and 8th, our only junior high school in the EVSC, grade 7 and 8, 900 students attend this school. My daughter will be there next year. I'm about ready to have a heart attack. 450, I brought along a wide variety of students. You know, Dawson, our media guy. Emily, a stellar student, but she plays lacrosse. Our students have the options. We are their home school, by the way. We always say NTI is the home school. That's your district school. We always, and I always correct people, and especially students. I'm gonna place it for my home school. No, we're your home school. But they do have athletics that they are allowed to play. They cannot band. It's something they cannot do. We cannot offer that because that is a class through the day. So there's some things that we can't do, but there's some things we can do to really work with that student that wants to stay in that, in those activities, you know. And Avery, she's third over, wants to pursue a degree in health sciences, and Chris will talk about it a little bit about how he can sort of jigsaw some things and make that work for a student. Evan is our classic football player, okay? I mean, big kid. I mean, when we walked into that office that day for him to present, he's like, I was in this office a lot last year, Mrs. Richter, and not for good things. And here he gets up in front of 450 students because that was a day, that counselor, we have a great relationship with her, all the 8th graders we got to address. There's sometimes we go and we get 10 minutes at lunch with 10 minutes with the girls, 10 minutes with the boys as they're transitioning. I mean, I don't want to say, I'll just say it, Chris, because some just are different than other. I mean, the principals are just different, and the middle school principals, they want their students to move up through the great things going on at their district school, and I get that, and I totally support that, and there is nothing at all wrong with that. But at the same time, I feel like there's a child out there, and we have many of them that are gonna fit well with us too. North Junior High is an example of one counselor, 450 students who she just hits the nail on the head. That's what I say every time. I feel like there's always a fit, like she knows that child and knows that New Tech is the place for them. This is a smaller school. This is Evansville Lutheran. This is one of our private K-8 schools. We aren't allowed in the parochial schools, okay? They don't want us in there, but we have some from parochial schools, and we get in there through word of mouth, and we know so-and-so, and we attended an engineering academy this summer, and we met Mr. Gibson, and wow, you know, I mean, you know, lots of good things happen, but, you know, here's a whole different group of students. You know, Ellie loves to read, dislikes wearing shoes. I mean, you know, just some fun things about the kids. Molly, she just graduated from 2014, and Mr. Gibson, because I love you talking about what she's gonna be a court reporter.
Court reporter, yeah, College of Court Reporting in Northern Indiana.
Northern Indiana, yes. And Mr. Johnson was supposed to be here with me, but you know, he had something happen. His son ended up getting married, you know, which I had a son in class, so I think it's a wonderful thing. And I'm so happy for him. But I have on here, he's a biology teacher, and he's fabulous. I put on here that he's best known lately for having a controlled burn because we have this green area that is super cool. And he crisped Larry the lobster. The kids come in and we have this lobster that's burned to their crisp. It's Larry the lobster. But it's Larry's fault because he was out of his habitat. So Mr. Johnson, I mean, you know, and we were burning Johnson grass, you know, so that was funny. Jonathan, right here, extremely bright. But it's his 5th school in 9 years, and Dad is has a traveling ministry. And I almost want to go to, you know, him and say, can you please sign right here that you'll wait? Because he is just, you know, thanks you for teaching him every day. And then Stephen, you have to talk about Stephen.
Stephen is he's a student that
we love him.
I don't know that, it's not for me to say whether or not he would get, eaten alive at a larger high school, but I think New Tech is a good fit for him. He has some health problems, and I think he would get picked on at other
Hands
schools.
pulled up to here,
But he's just a genuinely great kid. And
he's ours.
And the thing is, with mentioning the stories behind these students, that makes a personal connection, because if the students hear from me about NTI, big deal. It's some old guy talking to them about New Tech. But if a student that they may have seen in the hallways last year talks to them, so I think that really speaks to the power of having former students, our current students, go back to their home middle school and talk up New Tech. Here are some other strategies that we have as well, and I saw that in some no's and some need to knows. We originally were going to have one open house this year, planned for about 100 students and their family members. 225 showed up. So that was a good sign. We thought maybe we should have a second one.
And we do pass out brochures at those first open houses, those October ones.
And we had a second open house and had 25 show up, but of those 25, I think most of them are coming our way. And so really that open house, the first time, rookie mistake, I got up and talked about NTI. But the people who need to talk about NTI to the students and their families are our students. Because that's one of the beauties of New Tech, is that it's student-driven and student-led. And so I think two things: it gives authenticity to our students and what they're doing, but it also shows leadership, and I think that is a selling point for us as well. And we also, we have a tour of the school, so that's important as well. And then we participate. I think our school district finally decided we've got so many options that we're going to have an options and opportunities expo at our local mall. Interestingly enough, the comprehensive high schools are also now invited to that, because I think they're feeling the pinch of we're losing students to these innovative models. So it's a competition there in that way. We also message out, to media about open house.
And that was on a need to know up there too, about is there too much messaging out, direct messaging going out, on Connect Ed or whatever, and that is definitely, the media exposure can be an issue sometimes. So
we try to hit our parents by word of mouth, by television, newspaper, Twitter, Facebook, any means possible, just so that people get the word out about that. But also another key piece, as Krista mentioned, was the counselors. Those 11 middle school or K-8 counselors who talk to the students individually, and I think they're kind of sorting them, hopefully based on interest, but we realized we need to educate the counselors what New Tech is about. Because we are getting students who, and I heard this in our session yesterday, that a director said, I'm getting the same type of student from one particular school. Not good or bad, but just I think that it seemed like the counselor at that school had the wrong impression of New Tech. So to get to the counselor and say, here's what New Tech is, and having been in that role just last year, you understand, if you feed me and if you have some students show me around, I'm probably going to, number one, stick around, and number two, learn something about New Tech that's valuable. And then also shadowing, having students shadow. There again, it's a big step.
This is big. A shadowing 8th grader coming in. We had even talked. We think 100% of a student that has shadowed for a day has made the decision to come. And another thing real quick, before, we have a collections tab, and we have a ton of things in there for you. We have this PowerPoint, we have our brochure, we have, oh my gosh, open house, we got so many things in there. We have lots of things on there. I think we were on page 5, but I think we got bumped, but it's under K. Richter, recruitment in school. So any of these things you see that you want to use and take with you. We also have the Prezi that sometimes we get to show at an open house, and then sometimes we do not, just for lack of time. So We have some really cool things in there, so definitely spread that. And yeah, but were there some questions?
Question. Actually, it's fairly easy. A good question. Really, word of mouth will get a student to our door, or a parent phone call and saying, we're interested, but we're not sure. And so then I'll talk to the parent and say, why don't you have them come shadow for a day? And the way our school works is that, the parent would have to drop the student off there, or they could ride the bus if we can work it out. And then you're going to meet Taylor here in a second, but some of our freshmen are so engaged in having people shadow them because Taylor will run up to me and say, Mr. Gibson, do you have somebody that looks like somebody new in the office? Can they shadow me?
Yeah, some kids they love to do it.
That helps.
Some spend a half day, some spend a full day. One of the things is, Mr. Gibson has always been really vigilant about, I have a sophomore today. Who do you think? Like, give me someone who's got a good schedule today who would maybe want to come. And so he'll ask us, our opinions, on that. But that is a great thing. Usually in their school will make a contact with us too, correct? Won't their attendance?
And it
a
does
lot of
count.
times, just because we don't want them to be marked, but I don't know.
It counts as a day away, just as though they were saying
like
I'm sick.
Like a personal day or, whatever.
And the parents seem to think it's a decent investment. And so really on our part, we don't put on anything special for them. We just let them kind of see as we are, and because I think in that case, if it's what they want, that's great. And if it's not what they want, I don't want to be arrogant and saying, well, then don't come here. But if it's not a good fit, then spending a day with us is better than, having buyer's remorse after they sign on and then can't do it. And let me go back to two other things that were on the last slide before Krista tells you briefly about Taylor. We also have a couple different things at NTAC that are unique. So I think those can be drawing points. We have archery, which is something that really no school in our area has. And so we don't have athletics. Our students can play athletics at their district high school. So somebody who lives in Central High School's district can play football for Central, but they are still NTAC students. They graduate from us. But archery is a draw, and actually, strangely enough, I would hope that somebody would come to NTAC for project-based learning in an atmosphere of trust, respect, responsibility. But archery is a nice, it's kind of like, and they have archery too? Well, hey, that seals the deal. I think I want to come to NTAC. And
that has become a huge, I can't get over how large it's becoming. And soon the comprehensive high schools will probably have it. But I just think right now it's a neat draw because we have two teachers that really take it on and do a great job with it. So.
And I think the other thing too is, and I have to be careful about this, but Krista mentioned the controlled burn, which in and of itself is not that big of a deal to have a controlled burn. But the long story short of it is, Doug Johnson teaches environmental science. And so rather than just teaching it in the classroom, we have a natural area. And so he said, what are some ways to eradicate Johnson grass? So they had to hypothesize, what are some ways? And then he had them test it, and one group's like, let's burn it. And so, when I taught science, I would probably be like, well, we can't burn it, done. But Doug said, well, what would we need to do? Kind of, and I wonder on that. I wonder what we would need to do then to make that happen. So they contacted the EPA, and they contacted, we have a fire safety class at our technical center. So we kind of made it a learning experience that way. So then I invited the media, which there again, a controlled burn is not media worthy, but when it's a window into the neat things we're doing at NTAC, then all of a sudden this controlled burn became a 6 o'clock news segment about NTAC Institute. And then the Hoosier Veterans Consortium, our social studies teacher, one of our social studies teacher put that together along with Krista, and it was where we had combat veterans come in, and it was a great integration of interviewing skills from English, U.S. history from the wars, and then technology where they took a living history from the veterans. And so there again, we didn't do that so that we could get media attention. But because we're doing things that we think are valuable, we invited the media, which then somebody could see on the news and say, hey, I think that's cool. So I don't know about this NTAC Institute. They'll look into it. So it's kind of building that positive media attention and positive buzz around what's going on. So there again, we have to be careful not to do things just for the media attention, but it kind of goes back to that whole cycle of recruitment and culture. If we're building a strong culture that says, you know what, on any given day we're doing strong project-based learning, then I think that in and of itself can sell that to potential 8th graders or other students who may want to come our direction. And Krista has a story to tell you briefly about one of our freshmen.
Yeah, and I want you to, if you would like to get on there and read it. Taylor was one of our students that came to us after being homeschooled 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Dad, a doctor in Vincennes, which is like 45 minutes away. They finally decided to make the move to Evansville. Taylor, through word of mouth of a student, a church family that they had gone to church with, had heard about NTAC. And mom and dad sort of wanted Taylor to be a part of that collective decision of where Taylor wanted to go to school. Well, I see this is dad giving her a fist pump on her first day of school because she was nervous. I mean, to be 6th, 7th, and 8th grade homeschooled, and she has also been on a mission trip to Guatemala. She works with horses. She swims competitively. Taylor leads a life that is just different. She offers a lot. When I think about Taylor in those project-based learning situations, she really helps those students that really need I call them wraparound services because that's what it is. I mean, she really takes those students and wraps them up. But the story of Taylor, I asked her mom finally, after getting to know Taylor, I asked her mom, I said, why did you homeschool her? 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. She said, we always chose small schools for Taylor in the lower grades. But this struck me. She said, I was more concerned with her ability to learn and teach herself. Dad, a very highly educated, mom, a physician's assistant who decided they have 5 girls, Taylor's the oldest. And they kind of made that decision as far as education to keep the girls 6th, 7th, and 8th, keep them home, and let them make that decision in high school. But the teaching of herself, because Mrs. Anderson had said several times that that is the world we live in. And when we talk about agency and the ability to work and to that self-direction and to teach yourself, I'm like, wow. I'm like, this mom said this. So they came to one of our open houses, and Taylor, they collectively made the decision. Well, so Taylor's journey began, and this is actually a picture from, our kids wanted a hardback yearbook this year, and they've had 3 paperbacks, and I got the yearbook this year, and so we have our first hardback yearbook, and this is actually one of our pages in the yearbook, and I circled Taylor in there, but she has had solid gains in math and science, and she has learned to work with some of the more difficult students. Like, she's the one running to Mr. Gibson now, hey, is there someone I can show around? I just want to do it. And she does a nice photo bomb as well. That we tried to do like a staff selfie page, which we did do it, but Taylor bombed Mr. Griffin's picture in there, so I thought I'd show, something funny about Taylor. But the paying it forward, I was at this open house, I guess, but someone saw Taylor speaking to a parent, because our open houses, which we've given you how those are designed, totally student driven. We want even the students to talk to the parents. We see this mother crying, like Taylor is talking, this mother is crying. I'm like, oh my gosh, we have children, we have students making parents cry. Like, that's not what our intention was here.
Right.
Like, what's
Taylor,
happening?
you can't, we can't attract people if you're making the parents
Taylor,
cry.
yeah, nobody's gonna wanna come if you're making a parent cry, but I asked Taylor, I said, just when we learned what happened, we were moved. But this is basically what happened. The mother had come to her and said that her son had a disability. And as far as that goes, I don't know, the services vary from school to school. We have a consult, but I also feel like we have someone that, I mean, we really work with the students that come in with 504s, the students that come in and need those consult services. We do have that ability, but she said her son had a disability, showing the natural concern that all mothers, this is Taylor's words, in that situation would have. She broke down crying when I told her that he would not only fit in just fine, but would be welcomed by fellow students. I proceeded to cry. Taylor starts crying. I'm like, oh my gosh, we got all these crying people going on. But anyway, she said it would be perfectly fine, her son, because trust, respect, responsibility, that's what we, TRR, that's our big thing there. It's more than a motto at NTAC. And then Taylor writes that I experienced more personal growth and learning during my first year at NTAC than I would have ever imagined. It was a great experience, and I can't wait for next year. And now I'm getting goosebumps only because Taylor has always said she wants to go into animal science. She wants to go into animal science. After this, she wants to go into social work and counseling. And I am like, thank you, sweet Jesus, because we need people like Taylor to do that. I just think of what the impact that she made on that parent, and how for a parent to feel comfortable enough, I mean, in a setting where they could go up and say to a student, And so anyway, I just think that is a wonderful story about that. This is something I just threw in there. That's Taylor's mom. And I wanted Taylor's mom's take on, this is your oldest child. And you homeschooled her 6, 7, 8, small school settings all years before. This was a large and a big change and adjustment for them. And they know a lot about education. I mean, for the mom to say things like, simple recall. She knows that we're past that, that we are into a place that how well individuals communicate and collaborate with others, how efficiently they can utilize technology to find the solution, and gone are the days that required us to simply know and regurgitate information in our careers. I mean, it's just not there anymore. But the thing I love, the last one, thank you for partnering with us to grow our daughter. I'm like, wow. I'm like, this is one, I wish all of our stories could be this great, but here's one that really took a turn and really just made it so there's that design, and there's that structure, and there's that project-based learning, but then there's also that common care and concern, and we love you, and you're our child, and you're us, just like what we were talking about Steve and James earlier. I just don't know if someone like Taylor, would she have been successful? I think so, but would she have had that kind of interconnectedness that she's learning? I doubt it. I would like to think that we are helping her find that. So.
And in conclusion, just to kind of pull things together, and we want to give you a chance too to look at some of the knows and need to knows, and want to address a couple of those as well.
I'll take pictures of these and put these in our collection as well.
But also, I think it just speaks to the fact that culture is so important, and so if we're building a culture that says, I think we're inadvertently becoming an engineering magnet, because all freshmen take Introduction to Engineering through Project Lead the Way. And so I think, if a student is interested in engineering, they may come our direction. So, but 3 of the other comprehensive high schools also offer it. But it's kind of putting your finger on what is that right combination that will attract a student our direction. So it's got engineering, it's got archery, it's got, it's a smaller school. And I was speaking with, one person before the session started, that it's a small school, and we are a small school. We'll never get above about 300, but it doesn't mean we have small class sizes. I think that was something that, we can promise some things, but we can't promise everything. Do we have honors classes? No, we do not have honors classes. But I explained to students that, in the freshman class, there are two sections of U.S. history and English. And so, no, there aren't honor sections because we're not big enough to be able to track students out. But in a project-based model, I try to, and again, it's not just spinning it, but it's trying to frame it positively to say, but in a project-based model, there's enough differentiation there that your son or daughter can have the rigor that may or may not be there in an honors class at a comprehensive high school. Just trying to find that right combination. And so, we have students, like in that freshman class, I think we have a few who, were almost in the national merit. We had them take the PSAT, and they were close to national merit. Of course, they can't qualify till junior year, but their score was high enough as a freshman. So we're getting that caliber of student. And then we also had, 3 or 4 students who rode coattails. I mean, again, I believe in full transparency, and they failed everything. And so it's not perfect, but it's getting that right mix of students. And, we are a public high school, and so we cannot, we do not pick and choose. The only thing that our only limitation, we have really 2 limitations, and it goes into the amount of services that a student would need. As Krista mentioned, we have a special education teacher who's on a consult basis. And so if a student has a more detailed IEP, it's not that we would turn them away, we just don't have the staff to be able to service them. And then we have an application process, and we had a couple of incoming 8th graders who had 10 discipline incidents and were in 2 fights, and the police were called. And it's nice to be able to say, I'm sorry you can't come to our school, but it's, I hate that because that person may be able to really benefit from our environment. But up until last year, principal, assistant principal, counselor, sometimes the secretary, it's just, there's not the capacity there to have a student who's in the office twice a day. And so if that happens, we put that in full disclosure to say if a student, the only reason we would exclude someone is because of a discipline issue. Even if they have straight F's in middle school and don't pass their 8th grade state testing, if they're one of the first 75, and that's kind of our thing is we have a lottery at 75, what often happens is we don't hit that 75 number by January 31st. And so the lottery has never come into effect.
Did you have a question, ma'am?
Yeah. We do.
Yes,
we do have special education students, more students with learning disability, emotional disability.
Students on consult, students that have, we take a lot of 504s that come in, but we really have to look at it closely at the beginning of the year.
Probably IEPs or ED kids.
And, well, no, we do have IEPs, and we even have an ESL. We have, how many, do we just have the one right now?
We have 2 ESL students.
Two ESL.
We also have students who are on the
But
autism
they're
spectrum.
all,
So
they're
we do.
all sort of on the cusp of being done. You know what I mean? They're being, the scores have risen, like the things have changed, and they're sort of, they're a little bit different than.
How does your district work with your school options? Now, are all of these considered by definition charter? Our district designates independent charter versus dependent charter. But the term charter, when our union, has a lot of negative connotations and we're kind of hard to work around. How do you guys work with your district, and do they support all of these schools? So the student has to elect to go to your campus, otherwise they are automatically enrolled in their traditional homeschooling program?
Right.
Right.
For instance, if a student, and I go to Central High School just as kind of a, because a lot of places have a Central High School, but if a student comes into a feeder that goes to Central and they act with no choice to go anywhere else, in the fall they'll be a freshman at Central High School. They would have to choose, and there is fierce competition. In fact, one other thing that we do that I did not mention
To show them
is that we
model that makes quite a bit of sense. Your Google Earth.
One other thing that we do that I didn't mention in there is that we go to open houses. Each of the comprehensive high schools hosts an open house for their incoming 8th graders. And so for 3 of the high schools, the principals say, absolutely, sure, come on in. Now, we're stuck way back in a corner in one of them. And then 2 high schools say you cannot have access to our 8th graders at our 8th grade night. And so I think to that point, is there support from the district? Yes. Is there support from each individual principal? It depends on what school it is. It is.
It is. And like we said, a lot of these are housed in different schools. Now is this us, Chris, right here? This is where we cut off. And then we are connected to the Southern Indiana Career and Tech Center in the front. Right. Well,
by definition, we're a standalone. We just happen to
yes,
be
we have a little orange sign and we have our own parking lot.
Yeah,
so I guess we are still.
So academically,
But
we're
there's
not
some
connected with
corridors
the tech center.
Yeah, the tech center, and it's very easy to make. We have the Entrepreneurial Academy, which is probably something that, I mean, that is sort of we're STEM, but we also have the, is that right? The Entrepreneurial and Leadership Academy for 11th and 12th graders. And that's sort of the road if you would want to stay on our side for 4 solid years, is that. But Mr. Gibson makes it work. You know, if we have someone in the health sciences department, you know, we're going to get you, you know, we're going to get this 1 or 2, whatever you need over here as a junior or senior to do this. But to kind of explain, you know, this started out as just a room, and now we're the whole back portion of this.
And to that point also, from NTI down to Medical Professions Academy, those appeared in 2010, all of them at once. So, you know, that also complicated things. And even to complicate it further, but again,
4 years.
In the Shepherd Law Academy, NTI, which is an innovative model, will have 3 students who half of their day are going to the Shepherd Law Academy. So they're going to be bused from their district school to us, and they'll spend a half a day with us. Then they'll be bused to Harrison High School for their Law Academy, and then they'll be bused back to their district from us. And to clarify that, all the rest of them except for us are half-day programs. And so they have half-day at their district school, half-day at their innovative school. We're the only one that is a diploma granting school.
Yeah, and we have everything in place.
These are almost like small learning communities within traditional high schools.
They are.
Absolutely.
They're just located each at one high school. So the travel logistics are a nightmare. But really, you know, and there's some, I don't know, there's some pushback as far as who could go to which one. But when I had those 3 students come to me and say, you know, I want to be a lawyer. And so I could have waited for them to see, well, are they going to mention the Shepherd Law Academy or not? But I just think, and it may seem cliche, but it's why we're doing what we do, is if they want to be a lawyer, we don't have any law classes at NTI, but the Shepherd Law Academy does. So I said, well, have you heard of the Shepherd Law Academy? No, what is it? You know, and so I just complicated my schedule and their schedule. But there again, it's something, you know, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say, hey, there's this other option out there for you.
Right.
So
the early college is something that we cannot, that's difficult to do in conjunction with us. Basically what that is, that's an associate's degree earned by the time they leave high school. And that's through Ivy Tech. And they're, and there's sort of been some things going on, but that is about, is that I guess these 2 are the ones, right, that it just logistically can't
in medical
work
professions,
out.
it wouldn't work either. But
Yeah.
so I hope that gives an idea. And really to close, before we have you do a gallery walk just to look around, I think it goes back to that question of culture. And it's one of those things where it's hard to build. You know, we've been a school for 4 years. So, you know, some people will say school culture can't be established until, you know, 5 to 7 years. But there's a culture at NTI, and we just have to focus on what's positive. And it sounds, you know, I'm oversimplifying it, but to really latch onto those positives and market them and get the word out about it to every single person, the parent, the child, the counselor. We haven't talked to the principals because the principals of the middle schools don't talk to the students about options, but anybody who will listen to our story about NTI, you know, I think helps us get high quality students, and some who aren't as high quality, but that's okay because, you know, we're not looking at the top, you know, 5%. We will take anyone. But then, if we're doing our job and doing things well, then, hopefully that's going to entice more people to come and will encourage us to continue to do our job. So I think if we can get that momentum and that cycle going, that's the huge connection there with recruitment and just staying true to project-based learning. Last year we had kind of a perfect storm with 3 teachers who were brand new to PBL in the sophomore level, and the sophomores said, I want my PBL. And so if we're not true to what we say, they'll call us on it. And so we want to make sure that we're true to what we say. So let me open it up to any questions or any need to knows that you would like to expand on.
We so appreciate you coming today, because yesterday we presented up in a room, 5D, is that where we were? Yeah. We were in a little tiny room, we were all shoved in there, and I'm like, now we have this big room, but we really appreciate it, and it's we're very proud of what we are doing at NTAC. We want the legacy to continue, but we love to learn. What we're doing is, it has come from conversations from colleagues and states, and it's hard. You're never going to match the perfect NTAC school with what your student dynamic is and how your staff works out, and that's always going to be the difficult. I'm on the bring something in for appreciation day, and I'm thinking somebody is feeding these 55 teachers, and all I can do is do this. And I feel, but there's some parents that if you just really go to them and ask, and especially reach out to your stakeholders, businesses. I feel like we've gotten a lot of support from businesses, and some that we didn't even ask for, some that came to us. And, I really think that is a big thing too, and that is a great, I like to, sometimes we hear the word parking lot talk, and that's bad. But I go to a grocery store, and if I have my NTI shirt on, and someone is like, oh my gosh, you're at NTI now? Yes, let me tell you all about it. So-and-so goes there. That's good parking lot chatter. And, my kids always get mad because they say that I never wear anything but NTI. And I said, that's what we're doing right now, I said, that's the good news we want to get out there and share. But, it's not for everyone. And we can all sit here and say that. It's not for everyone. There are just some students that we don't fit them, we don't fit the model for, and that's okay. That's totally okay.
So again, just want to say thank you. If you have any other questions, feel free to, I've got my card up here. Like I said, not that we're the experts on this at all. It's always a work in progress, but I think, we'll be glad to share any kind of information that would be helpful at all.
I can tell you the scheduling man, you've met him. Okay, the counseling, if you have a question about scheduling, he has been at a large school where he's had to do it, and he knows, and that's a difficult thing, you can't, thanks for those 4 preps this year. No, I'm just kidding, I don't. But no, I'm just saying that, Krista's a very good person to ask about. I have this teacher, she's got these licenses, I want to open up, we have a theater arts program. To keep on academic honors, we had to continue with theater arts. And she was able to pass the health praxis, which Indiana did until July 31st, right? Yeah, so now we're able to take her full-time with health and theater arts and some visual arts now. Because we knew that some kids, I'm not gonna do theater arts. It's like, wait a minute, we're in a project-based learning school. You're getting up and you're presenting 90% of the time, and you don't want to take a theater arts class for your elective. But really, those things are tough. If you know anyone that wants to teach Spanish in southern
relocate
Indiana,
to southern Indiana, let me know.
Yeah, please, let them know.
Let me know.
Yeah.
And I do think too that, and I promise we're done, but just, I had a couple of seniors who graduated. They said every year I had to reevaluate, am I coming back to NTAC in the fall? And so one in particular said, I always envisioned myself going to a school that has football games and, has a band playing. And she said, we don't have any of that. But it's, for lack of a better term, it's a trade-off that, what I get out of NTI outweighs being able to sit at a football game on Friday night. And she could still go sit at the Central football game. She just won't know anybody, but, that was her district school. But she could still have that atmosphere. But, it's a trade-off. And there are some things that are negotiables as people come into 8th grade, and there are some things that are non-negotiables. And try to be honest, like if they want to play an instrument in the band, they've got to take band during the day. We don't offer band. So if you want to come to NTAC, you probably can't march in the band, and so that's a trade-off. And so again, if we had 30 spots open in our incoming freshman class, I might be a little more panicked. But I also know that if we have 2 of those students in band who decide, nah, NTAC isn't for me, hopefully there are 2 more who would be willing to step in their place. So.
And we find ways we do celebrate NTIs monthly. And we have a National Honor Society, but there's just some different really cool things that we have done. Celebrate NTI, you can see anything from the ugly sweater contest where Miss Nichols wore a skirt, a Christmas tree skirt, and we had a pageant, and it was so fun, to students playing these fun games. But we definitely celebrate our school. I mean, we do. We don't want those students to, they're missing out on those football games maybe on Friday nights. And teaching freshmen this summer, I went to a couple, we had all kids that played at the different feeder schools. And I took, my son, he played, we went to the games. We went and saw each of the kids play to let them know, hey, you're involved, but we are going to support you. And but we definitely find every opportunity we can to celebrate NTAC because they deserve that. And there's just super things going on. We do a lot of community. That was the Alzheimer's walk that we do. We have Operation Hot Mess where we clean up the community. We should have won. I don't know who did the math on that one. And we do a lot of community service. I mean, just different raising for different causes, with the canned foods, and just some great things. So,
thank you again so much for coming.
Again.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks again.